Alright, so back to the flip poker um, second intro sort of overview of what's going on, but I'm actually going to do something fun today. Instead of doing just an overview, I'm going to show a little bit about how I organize things in the in Unity's hierarchy for the prefabs, and what we're going to work on today is the flashy intro screen. So what I want to do is this first task here, I've added in a little checklist of card textures particles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and quickly work on this texture, and I'll speed that part of the video up. Okay, so now that I've made this texture, what it is basically 128 by 128 squares, and it's going to randomize amongst these cards up here, these textures of cards for the particle. So what we'll do is we'll come back over to the game here in Unity, and what I want to do is I want to create a new game object. So I'll press Control-Shift-N and drag it into the hierarchy here, and we'll just rename this as card clubs particle. And so you'll notice that some of the parameters here are messed up. I have a little tool to press Control-Shift-R, and it'll zero everything out, set all the scale back to 111. It's just a little editor tool I made a while back. And what we want to do is we want to come up here to Effects, and then we want to add in a particle effect. So it's at the top here, and you'll notice it's rendering behind. So that's because the renderer, Unity, NGUI renders its textures at a higher depth than the shader that's currently on there in this. And we don't want to have shadows or receive shadows on this particle. But what we want to modify here is the material. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've imported some shaders that I wrote some while back, and they're not that complex of a change, but what I'm going to do is this has a render queue of 4000, and you can use that shader to make a material. And so I've made a particles directory under the materials directory here, and I've got cards clubs, and I want to use this texture here, so I drag that in there, and I've put this as a particles additive Q4000. What that'll do is it'll add to the colors behind it. So when I come back over to my particle here and drag my material in, boom, it'll start rendering on top. And obviously this is not how we want it to render. We want it to render single cards. And actually I kind of want to have an explosion of cards. So we're going to go ahead and have a texture sheet animation here. And it's going to be divided into 8 tiles, and then there's going to be 4 rows. So now we have the correct aspect ratio because it's squared 128 by 128, if you remember that on here. We don't want to have it be the whole sheet, we just want to have a single row, and we don't want to random play, and we want to do no frames over time. You want to just do a single frame so it doesn't shift. You can do like fire inside of the texture and stuff like that. You'll notice right now in the preview that as it flies out, it's changing to different types of cards. We don't want that. We want it to be a random between 2 constants, and currently it's only doing the first 4. We'll do the first 8, so we get all of those in there. So now, based off this texture, it's rendering on each one of these squares individually for the particle. After doing that, I'm going to reduce the duration of the particle down to 2 seconds. I want it to loop. I want its start size to be a bit smaller than this, maybe 0.5, maybe 0.3. That looks okay. I'm not really crazy about this tint. Maybe make it a little bit brighter, make it a little bit darker. The more you do that, it changes the transparency and how much it adds to the light. Too bright, you don't want that. Too soft, you don't want that. And we'll just go about right here for now. Not really crazy about the speed. Change that down to 2, or maybe 3. That's good. And then we want the emission max particles. Let's make that about 20. And when you do this, it'll emit and then stop for a little bit and then emit some more, and then we can change the rate that the emission occurs. So we can do a little bit of an explosion there, and they'll just kind of like fly out. So when the game first comes up, it'll just kind of like explode out. You'll notice that they're still disappearing through the texture, and that is because they're being rendered in 3D. So they're actually flying out back behind the backboard. We can bring this a little bit forward, and we'll still get some, but they still fly behind there, so we don't want that. We want to change the shape, and the shape of the cone should show up here. It's not showing up. That's fine. We'll change the angle of this to 90 degrees so it flies outwards instead of flying through the background. It'll fly in a 2D direction. We'll go back over here to the 2D viewer, and you can see that it's actually going throughout that way. And we can change these values here. We could have 50 particles, and then change the rate up to 100, and they'll just really fly out. Still not crazy about the size of this, so let's put this down to 0.25. And start speed still a little bit too fast. Let's put that down to 2. Still too fast. Put it out to 1. That's good. They look a little bit boring. They're all coming out at the same angle because this is going to be a flip game where they rotate around. So we'll go ahead and do a rotation between 2 points, 2 constants. We'll do a -45 and a 45. So you get a nice jumble of cards flying out. Once you're done with adding something into this, you would come up here to the prefab and click apply. You'll notice that this is grayed out right now. You just go ahead and click apply to it. It includes it in there. Then you can delete this. And now whenever you get the logo back up, it will have that particle in it. And that's pretty much it for this. I will go ahead and leave it at that for right now. We'll probably move some things around. So I don't like this center texture being all one piece. We'll probably break it apart and put some animations on it and that sort of thing and put in a flash. But that's it for this video. I will talk to y'all guys later.